You are listening to The Michael Lodge Show. Wealth, business, and taxes. Oh yeah, and some politics. Let's get started.
And good morning, this is Mike Lodge, and glad that you have joined me. Gosh, what a beautiful day. I looked out down my hall of my home, in my office, and the sun was coming in so brightly, it literally lit up from the very end of my house all the way down to the end of the hall. That's a long ways. Took a picture of it because it was so amazing to see. It was a beautiful, beautiful morning today. And I am happy to be up. I'm happy to be ready to fight on and get stuff done. Got my cup of coffee. Do you have your cup of coffee? I'm ready to go. Listen, we have a problem. How many times do I come on to this podcast and say, oh, America, we've got a problem. We have a problem. And its name is Joe Biden. We have a national security issue at the moment, and we also have a border crisis. And the president is not doing one single thing to stop it. In fact, he started this border problem, this border crisis, when he was running for president. Because when he was doing the debates, if you listen to his past debates, you will find that what he said encouraged people to say, okay, great, when Joe Biden becomes president, we can go to America again. So he said in the debate, he said, if you are downtrodden or if you are suffering in your country, come on over, because that's the kind of country we are. Well, we are a good country, and we let people into this country, but they have to come through legally. You literally have people coming to the border now in Biden shirts, because they have been promised by Biden that they can have sanctuary in the United States. No questions asked. So this started during the election, during the campaigning, during the debates, when he said, come on over. That started the process of people thinking, oh great, when Biden becomes president, we can start going to America again. And that's what they've done. So now we have a border crisis. We have a problem with all of our facilities down there stuffed with people, where there should be 30 or 40 people. There are literally over 700 people in a cell or in a facility. We have children coming across the borders without parents, because they were promised, their parents were promised that they could send their kids over. And so we have a border crisis, because as these individuals are coming over, the coyotes are bringing up drugs at the same time. So they drop people off, a whole bunch of people off at a certain spot, and then they go down to another place, and that's where they're dumping their drugs. 10% of the people that are coming over with these individuals across the border illegally are not from South American countries or from Mexico. They are from other countries. That is a big problem. We don't know who these individuals are. We have no records on them. We don't know what their political views are or what their feelings towards America is. We have individuals coming in from South America and Mexico who have COVID. They're infected with COVID, and the president is just letting them loose out into your neighborhood and my neighborhood. Listen, this is stupidity. Now he says, since we're talking about national security, that he will not sit down with a North Korean dictator. And so the diplomats around the world are saying, okay, then if the United States doesn't step in and deal with North Korea, what's going to happen? That means China is going to get their power hooks again into North Korea, as if they already don't have that power. Then, listen, we have a president here that has no policy or has no good vision for America. and the security of you and me, and the security of illegal drugs coming across into this country. He says, open up the borders, let them in. Come on, let them in. We love this. We love this. The President of the United States has created a national security issue. And perhaps it's now time that we start talking and thinking about and considering the word impeachment on this president, because he has failed the American people. Harris has failed the American people. We have a national security crisis that is not just at the border, but it's around the world, because we have a president who has no inkling of what to do. And the people around him don't know what to do because he can't give direction. He doesn't have the mental facilities to give direction or to think the process through. So we have open borders. We have drugs coming through. We have nationals from all over the world coming through. Our border has become compromised by an inept president who doesn't know what to do. Instead, what he does, he goes through all of Trump's immigration and national policies, and he, what does he do? Out of hate, he just destroys them all. He just says, that's not good. He didn't think about it at all. He just got rid of it because Trump had signed it. That's not leadership. That's stupidity. That is absolute stupidity. When we had the Trump administration, the border crisis was under control. The fence was going up. It was being built, and that fence was working. The policies down at the border was working. We cannot have a president who makes political decisions instead of what is right and wrong for the United States. And that's where we're at. The border crisis is a crisis. Now, he wants to talk in the doom and gloom of COVID. He wants to talk about that. Every single day he wants to talk about it. And then we see from the CDC director that comes out and says, oh, there's a calamity coming. It's going to destroy. Come on, get over it, people. Get over it. This is a virus, and it floats, and it moves, and it changes, and it does a whole bunch of different things, just like the flu has done, just like the China flu had done, just like all of the swine flu, all of this stuff. We have various varieties of a very strong flu, COVID being the strongest. But we don't stop a nation because of it. We keep moving forward. And you don't start calling other states who have a very high success rate in managing their COVID issues, you don't start calling them names because they're not going along with your stupidity. So we have a national security issue because we have a weak national security president who has too many ties to China, too many ties to other countries through his family business dealings. And we can go on and talk about that stuff. If you guys want to argue with me, go ahead. Come back to me and let's argue about it. But when you have an open border, and when you've got missing wall sections, and where you have the majority of your ICE and border patrol agents at facilities trying to process people through and letting them out without even having any family members or anybody, I mean, it's become a disaster. Especially when you're letting people out who have COVID. I mean, if you're a Democrat, if you are a Republican, if you are a Libertarian, if you are a conservative or a liberal, whatever you may be, think about what is right and wrong and letting people through the system, through the border system, without checking whether or not if they were clear from COVID. And you're letting people through the border who are infected with COVID. then you're just destroying the whole national security of this nation. COVID is a security issue. Open borders is a security issue. Having children, hundreds and hundreds, sitting there confined because they were promised by President Biden that they could come across the border is a national security issue. So the President of the United States has created this national security issue. And it's affecting you and it's affecting me. Just 1 second. Coffee time. Just one moment. One thing about coffee is it allows you and I to sit down and talk, chat, tell our stories. We should do it more. We should put more time in taking 10 minutes or 15 minutes the first thing in the morning to sit down and chat with your staff or sit down and chat with people that you want to know more about. Coffee does that. Coffee is kind of like this bridge of understanding. Even though sometimes we don't agree with the other individual, at least when we have a cup of coffee, it makes us calm, right? Right? And it makes us listen because we're drinking, right? Gives us that tool that creates a listening environment towards the other person. I love coffee, I tell you. It's one of my favorite things in the morning. Now, if it's a cold morning, coffee and cocoa, that's even better. So we have this national security issue going on. And if this does not get fixed, if the president does not do his job, sending Harris is not doing your job. Who's she going to report to? The president? I doubt it because he doesn't understand. Who is she going to report to? Who is she going to talk to? Because no one respects her down at the border because she's an absolute fool when she called them Nazis. I don't know why. I don't know why we have to have this type of situation where you and I have to spend time worrying about the national security of our nation because we have an inept president who can't do his job. And the problem is that we knew he couldn't do his job, but yet the American people voted him in. Supposedly. Every time I think about it and I hear the president talk, I get very discouraged only because I know that he doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't understand the situation. He's in a cocoon in that White House where he is being fed only what they think he should be fed. And he can't go to the national news sources because they are feeding him also and feeding the American people with nonsense. So what do we do? Well, I'm telling you, I really feel this in my heart. As Americans, we have got to consider the choice of impeachment. We have to remove an inept president from office because he's making too many mistakes, too many decisions that is affecting the national security, the safety of you and me, increasing the numbers of COVID because he's letting individuals infected with COVID across the border. And he's opened up our borders so badly that hundreds are coming in a day. It's just not one or two, it's hundreds a day. And the coyotes are laughing at us because they are saying, hey, this is a big business for us. This is more than $1 billion business to us. Our business is good. On average, it's about $4,000 per head that they get. Multiply that 4,000 times 100,000 people coming through that we already know of. That's a bunch of money. And then on top of that, their sales of the drugs that we're not supposed to have here in the United States, who have been banned in the United States because it does so much damage. Opioids are coming across the border. They drop off the people illegally, and then they run down the border and they drop off the opioids, because no one's down there. There's no border patrol down there, so they go to sections where they know where it's unprotected, and they start doing their drug deals. The national security is a very important issue to this nation. To every nation. Every nation has a national security concerns, and they work on it day after day after day. But this president doesn't do that. Instead, he focuses on COVID, and he wants to go out that message of COVID and how bad it is and how terrible it is and how everybody should be wearing masks every single day. Gosh, I'm wondering if we even need to wear masks when we're having sex. Then we need special protection. God. Conversations that we go into because we've got a nonsense leader in the White House that is doing nothing for this nation to secure it. He's opening up so that we have issues because we have no policy. We have no economic policy. We have no national security policy. We have nothing. When the Chinese come in and lecture our diplomats on American soil, we have a problem. I tell you, I think I'm at the point where if we don't start thinking about how to remove this president legally, this nation is going to be in a hell of a lot more problems and trouble over the next 4 years. Yeah, we're just into a few months of this president, and it's a disaster already. My goodness. Americans, why? Those of you who voted Biden, why did you do it? And I know the answer already because you hated Trump. But unfortunately, Trump's policies were working. Biden's is not. Biden's is weakening this nation. Every moment this man is in office, he weakens the nation. So that's why I'm saying, even if you're a Democrat, if you're liberal, if you're conservative, if you're a libertarian, whatever you may be, whatever belief that you may be, this is not working at the moment, and our national security is in jeopardy. And if we as Americans don't start demanding that things get cleaned up in our nation's capital immediately, we are going to lose this country to the worst situation ever because we have no leadership that is thinking on the benefits of the American people. Instead, they are focusing on the political agenda, and that political agenda has destruction marked all over it as it touches America. You do not run a country on a political agenda. You run a country based upon what the needs of the American people are. And you haven't done that. In Congress, you haven't done it. In the Senate, you haven't done it. And in the White House, you haven't done it. We are faced with a bunch of idiots that are literally sitting there holding the country hostage because of political agendas. No one's working with each other. We have a dominant power right now in America that is destroying the nation step by step by step, day, by hour, by minute. Now, thank God we've got laws in place that we can challenge the the stupidity of these politicians. If they are doing something unconstitutional, we have the legal system that we can fight that through. But the problem, now I want to go back to one subject here. A lot of you out there saying, well, what we need to do is put more investment into these countries that are trying to get here. Think about this, okay? You are dealing with countries that are so corrupt that that money goes into the pockets of those people who are in power of those countries. And if we could be successful at it, it will take years of investment to turn countries around. It's not going to do anything right now. And we have tried this before, and we still are living through the failures of these countries that we have invested so much money in, but have not gotten anything back in return. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked. I mean, you can work with these countries. You can send people down there to teach them how to farm and how to create business and how to create a better healthcare system. You can send people down there to do that. That's great. But if you're going to deal with the politicians and just throwing money at them, it goes nowhere. It does nothing for that nation. It doesn't. That's why countries love America, because we're so stupid that we keep sending money to these people that we should not be sending money to, but they love it because they put the money in their pockets. They form these construction companies that siphon off the money from the government, but nothing ever gets built. I know. I've seen it. I've been in these countries, and I've seen what happens. You will literally drive through a country, and it will say, this highway is being built by Congressman so-and-so. That highway has been sitting there doing nothing for 10, 20 years, but that sign is still there. That's how things work in these third world countries. The money goes into their pockets, but it never goes into the roads or into the schools or into the hospitals. No, it goes into the politicians. And you guys want to keep throwing money at these countries. If you want to send advisors down, great. Teaching is the best tool on how to get things done. But if you're throwing money down, you're playing on a roulette table and you don't know what's going to happen. Because as that roulette table goes around, it always lands on a politician's name who's going to get some of that money. You have to think logically here, people. We have a national border crisis. We have a national security crisis. And the president is not addressing it. He is not getting it done. He needs to go back to the policies that we had a year ago and put them into place again. Because they were working. But instead, what did he do? In his campaign, he promised these people that they could come across the border. So now you've got people, even to this very day, coming across the border with Biden t-shirts. How are we Americans such idiots? And we allow this to continue on, but we should not allow this because we are Americans and we tell the politicians what need to get done. They don't tell us. They work for us. Remember that? We're paying their salaries. We're paying for their health care benefits. We're paying for all the perks that they get. They work for the American people. We don't work for the American government. And if we don't start taking back control of our nation, we won't have a government left that has the name democracy in it. As we look at today, that name democracy is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, more quieter, that you don't even hear it any longer. And pretty soon, it will be gone. Because you and I allowed it to happen. I don't care how much you hate. Turn that hate into something that is productive for this country. Because we're all in this together. Not your political views, not your party. I don't care anything about that. You start thinking about what is necessary to make this country strong again. Vibrant. A leader in the world. Right now we're being laughed at. We are literally being laughed at by nations. Look at America. Look at their America. And they're laughing. They talk about democracy and they don't even have democracy. And they come and lecture us about democracy, and America doesn't even have it. And so nations laugh at us. Listen, if you like the content of my podcast, go to www.buymeacoffee.com/Michael Lodge. It helps me out with the production costs of this podcast. If you have any business tax questions or mediation questions or any kind of question, throw it at me. Send me a text at 818-252-5682. Again, that's 818-252-5682. Listen, I love coming to talk with you. I had a great cup of coffee this morning. I hope you enjoyed it too. Go out. Have a great day. Let's fight back. Bye-bye. This podcast has been produced by Michael Lodge, fully focused on content.